The Circus Clown by Haunted Frog. Growing up, circuses were common. Every year, our family as well as all the other families in the community would head down to the fairgrounds, and us kids would admire the size of the elephants and pet the camels. I know now that those people never should have had those animals, and that their treatment was actually rather cruel. But as a young child, that's an experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else. The zoo definitely did not allow children to ride on the backs of camels and elephants, and that's why I loved the circus so much. One year my family went to the circus, just like we did every year prior. The first thing that I noticed was that they had hired a new clown this year. Typically the circus had the same staff every year because there weren't many people that wanted a job like that, plus they made below minimum wage. But the elderly man that used to be their clown was perfectly fine with the low wages because he lived on disability from being a veteran, and he was only allowed to make so much money every month. Since we were yearly regulars, my family got to know the staff, and I saw that man as a grandfather figure. I always looked forward to seeing him because of his kindness and humor. Every year before we left, he would come find us and give our entire family some candy to share. And he always gave me a different balloon animal each year. Last year, he gave me a dog. And the year before that, he made me a giraffe. He practiced all year to make sure that he had a different animal to give me. I was disappointed that he wasn't there that year, but I figured if I was him, I would be ready to move on to my retirement too. At least I assumed that was why he wasn't there. I truly didn't know, to be honest with you. It just seemed like an easy explanation given his age. As we walked past the new clown, I immediately felt uncomfortable. I had never met a clown that gave off such an unapproachable aura. My dad must have felt the negative energy radiating off of him as well, because as we walked past him he jokingly yet condescendingly muttered, "I bet we'll be falling out of our seats dying of laughter this year." My mom grabbed my hand and kept me at her side as we walked into the circus tent to purchase our tickets. She must have been uncomfortable too. My mom never grabbed my hand anymore. I was 14. Regardless, I was excited to see the lions, tigers, bears, and elephants, so I pulled my hand away and ran to our seats after our tickets had been purchased. Throughout the entire show, that clown stood in front of the tent's entrance, just staring at us. His arms were limp at his sides, and his head was cocked to the side. His stare was cold and almost lifeless. It wouldn't have been so creepy if he had his arms crossed, or if he showed any type of anger or emotions in general. But he didn't. I did my best to ignore him and enjoy the show. There were a couple of times that I couldn't help but look over at him, and each time we would make eye contact, which sent chills down my spine. My parents must have noticed his strange behavior as well because I kept catching them looking over in his direction as well. When it came time for that creepy clown to put on his own performance, he sombered into the spotlight and stood there silently for a couple moments. It was one of the weirdest things I have ever seen in my life. The crowd was murmuring about how strange this guy acted, and frankly, they seemed to be appalled by him. After a few long moments of silence, he pulled out a balloon and an air pump. He blew up the balloon and began twisting it as if he was making a balloon animal, but instead he made a stick man. Once again, his ice-cold eyes locked onto me. He started squeezing the stick figure as hard as he could until the sound of the balloon popping echoed through the tent. This guy horrified me more than anything in my life, and I've been through quite a bit. I don't think it was the act of popping the balloon that got to me. It was the fact that I knew what my dad had said when we walked by, and now he seemed to be fixated on my entire family. Out of everyone in the crowd he could choose to stare at, he chose to keep his focus on my family and I the entire time. I needed a break. I couldn't handle being stared at by that guy anymore. I told my mom I was going to use the restroom and that I would be right back. I proceeded to exit the tent and make my way to the bathrooms outside, happy to have a moment to breathe and get away from the freak inside. As I opened the door to the bathroom, I stopped dead in my tracks. I could feel the steady stream running down my leg, but I couldn't help it. In front of me laid a middle-aged man, bloody and lifeless with his throat cut open. I screamed at the top of my lungs and caught the attention of the ticket attendant that had sold us our tickets. She came rushing over to me, and when she saw what was in that bathroom, she almost became physically sick. Immediately, she ran inside the tent to call the authorities and evacuate the guests out of the tent to a safe area. Before I knew it, a stampede of people came barreling out of the tent towards me. I looked for my parents, but it was impossible for me to see through a crowd of well over 100 people. My panic grew as I thought to myself that my parents could be in danger. Much to my relief, my parents eventually emerged from the crowd and made a beeline straight for me. Soon, the entire area was swarmed with law enforcement and crime scene investigators. As far as anyone knew, there was only one victim, and that was the man I had found in the bathroom. However, after a thorough search, law enforcement found 7 more victims. Each one of them had their necks cut, and a balloon was drawn with blood on their foreheads. The police were asking everyone if they had any leads on suspicious or confrontational individuals, as they tried to paint a picture of who could have done this. We weren't the only people to tell the police about the new clown that had been there this year. As a matter of fact, there was over 100 reports claiming the same thing. Strangely enough though, the police never found the clown when they conducted their search. They ran the name that the clown had given his employer at the circus, but they couldn't find him in any database. The man didn't exist. Police believe that the man gave them a false name, and that he was likely an active serial killer on the loose. 8 victims at one crime scene, let alone a bustling community event, was not normal compared to the murder cases they usually handle. These people were hunted. The killer waited for the right moment when these people were alone and vulnerable, and that's when they attacked the victims. The bloody knife used to end these people's existence was found under the rug directly in front of the entrance to the tent, right where the clown had been standing. Now, I can't prove for certain that it was the clown that did this. However, he is the only person that wasn't at the scene when the police arrived. Every person that attended the circus that night had their fingerprints taken and ran against the prints found on the knife handle. Not a single audience member or employee was a match. The clown was the only person that wasn't fingerprinted. I truly believe that my family and I could have been murdered by a serial killer that day. Even a harmless day of fun at the local circus could cost you your life.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you'll hit subscribe and stick around for my future stories. I write all of my content myself, and I would love to hear your ideas for stories to come. Let me know in the comments on this video what you would like to hear, or find me on TikTok at HauntedFrog118. Until next time, stay creepy.